You aren't finishing your first draft because you're overthinking it. Shakespeare. You aren't finishing your first draft because you're overthinking it. It's truly not that deep. And I know. You've had this idea for this book for years, and it's your passion project, and you're finally doing it. You're writing the book, and you're so excited, and it has to be perfect, except for no, it doesn't. Draft 1 has one single task, one single goal, and that is to be completed. If you have a complete first draft, the odds of you continuing to edit it and work on it and actually work towards getting it published rise astronomically. The amount of people who have started a book is a lot higher of a number than people who have finished a book. You know what I mean? So today I'm going to be giving you a couple of tips on how to start letting go of that perfectionism in writing that can make it so hard to write a shitty first draft. Let's get into it. First thing I'm going to talk about is how to let go of perfectionism in writing, because it can be really hard, especially with the first draft, especially if you've never written a book before. It can be really, really hard to let yourself write something that you don't think is great and not just spend all of your time editing it. And then I'm also going to talk a little bit about what to do if you start getting stuck in your story, because writer's block is part of the writing process. That's why it's so common and so well known. So I'm going to go over some 5 tips for how to kind of get over that writer's block and work through it so that you can get back to writing your shitty first draft. Got lots of notes. The first thing I want to say is that writing a book, even if you're writing your shitty first draft, it is hard. So if you're like, why is this so hard? Oh my God, it is hard. It's supposed to be hard. That's kind of part of the craft of writing, is finding the struggle in it. And then also it makes you appreciate those moments where the words are just like flowing really well and you're just killing it even more when you have those moments of struggle. So the balance of the world, you know how it is. So my first tip for letting go of perfectionism and writing a shitty first draft is to make an agreement with yourself that 0 people will ever read this draft except for you. I do not think that any first draft that I've ever written has been worth having other people read. Even when I have showed people my first draft, it literally gives me the ick to look back on the fact that I used to let people read my first drafts. Crazy that I did that. But so once I made the decision of I'm not going to show anybody this draft, I'm just going to keep it to myself. The only thing a first draft has to do is exist. It can be shitty because no one else is going to see this except for me. So no one is going to judge this. And just that mindset shift of saying I'm the only person who's going to see this amalgamation of words that I call a shitty first draft, it takes a lot of the pressure off, because I'm just writing for myself and I'm writing to get the story out on the page. And I know that I can make it more poetic later and I can add more storylines and I can add depth to the characters, but the first draft isn't supposed to be perfect. And not showing it to other people personally takes a lot of the pressure off. And my second tip is also about shifting your mindset and just really reminding yourself every time that you sit down to write, okay, this doesn't have to be good. It just has to be. It just has to exist. That is its only job. And the way that I like to think of it is, if you watch, I always get the TikToks of people who are painters, and when they do those time lapses of them doing their entire piece of art, a lot of times they'll start with the underpainting, where none of it actually ends up in the final piece, but they're painting the entire canvas one color or another, because that color then changes how their paint interacts with the canvas, and it change because color theory. So that underlayer will change how other colors show up, and it brings a sense of unity to the painting that you can't always get if you just start with a fully blank canvas with nothing on it. And so think of your first draft as that. The odds are not a lot of your first draft may end up in your final draft. I can't tell you how much I changed from my first draft to my final draft on the book that I published, Daisy Plucked. This is when I seamlessly plug my own book, as this channel is not sponsored, but I do have a book out. You can see a poster of the cover back there, so I kind of have the book. Daisy Plucked is a YA sapphic Hamlet retelling about a girl named Daisy, whose lifelong best friend and very recent ex-girlfriend, Hannah, passed away. Everyone thinks it's suicide, including Daisy, until Daisy gets home after Hannah's funeral, and Hannah's ghost is in her bedroom and is like, hey, actually, I didn't kill myself, it was murder, and you're the only one who can see me and the only person who can solve it. So we've got Daisy trying to solve the mystery, and then there's also dual POV with Hannah going through kind of her life flashing before her eyes, essentially, is what it's supposed to be. And here is my next tip. I'm going to hold your hand when I say this, okay? You holding my hand? Don't leave me hanging, that's weird. You need to stop editing as you write. I know I know. Now that you see in the light of a new day that sentence, you know that it could be perfect if you just change this. But wait, no, not that. And then you could maybe change this word also. And then suddenly you've spent half of the time that you sat down and designated as writing time editing the last paragraph or the last page that you already wrote. And you know what? That means that you have given up all of that time that you could have spent writing the next chapter, the next scene, and you could have discovered something about your story that now it's going to take you longer because in reality, even if you edit as you go, with the way first drafts work, it might turn out that you spent forever re-editing a scene that gets cut in the next draft. You don't know exactly what you're gonna want the book to be. I mean, like, even if you have an outline and you know where your book is supposed to go, your characters can still surprise you. Your characters can still do stuff that you weren't expecting. Like, in the story I'm writing right now, my main character just decided that she wanted to reconnect with one of her ex-bandmates and ex-best friend because she wanted to. That's what she wanted from the situation, and I hadn't planned for that, but it's what made sense for the character, so I wrote it in. And there are a couple of scenes also where I decided to change the setting. So, for example, in the book that I'm writing right now, the main character is like kind of like an indie rock pop star, and I was originally going to have her perform at one type of award show and have the story start in a different season, and then I realized that I didn't want to do that, and I completely changed the season. And I ended up changing when I wanted the story to start a couple of times. So if every time that I decided to change something in the story, if I had gone back and re-edited, I would have had to do it 3 or 4 times. So it would be a waste of time. So that's why you just do not need to edit as you go. If you really struggle, what you can do is open a new Word doc to write every day, and then at the end of your writing session, you can copy it and paste it into your main story document so that you're not able to go and look back like easily. You know, if you need to reference like, oh, where did I say they were in this scene again? Something like that, that's small, like you can, but it's also a little bit less tempting to go back and re-edit. Okay, and my final tip is if you think that you're gonna like change things and you wanna go back and edit, so I guess this is not a new tip, this is still part of that. And so if you're thinking like, if you make a change like the one that I did, I changed, it was going to be in January that it started, and then I changed it to August, and I didn't go back and edit stuff. I just made a note I use Scrivener, so there's like a note section on the side, and I just wrote like, this is when I decided to change it to this season, so it's going to be chaotic. I once wrote the first 7 chapters of a first draft in third person, and then realized that it needed to be in first person. I wrote the rest of the book in first person, and I haven't gone back and edited that, but that's for other reasons besides the tense change. And now we're on to the second part of this video, what to do if you have writer's block because the story isn't working and you're stuck and you don't know what's to do, and it's just what you had planned it's not gonna work. Hey Shakespeare, you wanna be in the video too? Can you lay down? Oh, you're gonna be front and center. Okay, don't too loud. She's totally gonna chew loud. She's gonna chew so loud. Okay, I hope you can't hear Spear chewing, and if you can, well, it's her house, not yours. It's also mine, but it's mostly hers. Okay, so your story isn't working, and it's causing you a little bit of writer's block, but you were committed to writing your shitty first draft. Here are 5 things that you can do, and kind of going from the most minor thing that you're stuck on to if you're stuck on something major. So the first thing is if it's like a really minor thing, it's super tiny and you're just stuck and you don't know what to do, put on your project playlist. If you have a playlist for your book, I assume you do. And if you don't, then you can make a project playlist and then just listen to the playlist and think about your character and think about their journey and like where they are in the story and everything. I found this really helpful. Just in general, I love music as an inspiration for my stories, like Taylor Swift's new album. I love it, okay? If you don't like it, that's fine. That's your opinion. But my opinion is that A Bop is a Bop and The Fate of Ophelia actually saved me. So, anyways, put on your playlist, think about your characters, and that can kind of like knock something loose. Just daydream and listen to music is literally my go-to if I start getting stuck on something. My next tip for getting rid of writer's block that's like a little bit worse because story is just not working. Sit down and just like free write, journal about where you want your story to go, what's tripping you up. Like set a timer for 15 or 20 minutes and just sit down and write the entire time. Do not let yourself stop. If all you're thinking is, I don't know what to do, just write, I don't know what to do over and over again. If that's what you have in your brain, just write everything out and just really focus on like, oh my God, okay, this story's not working. This scene is stupid. I don't understand. Like, it doesn't make sense for the characters to be doing this, but like, that's how I wrote it. But now that I think about it, it's not working. I don't know what to do. And sometimes by the end of journaling about it, you realize, oh wait, this is what I need to do. what was I thinking before? Who knows? But now I know I need to do this. And then the next thing to do is do other work from the project that's not writing. So like working on your playlist a little bit more, creating Pinterest boards for your characters, talking to your dog about the plot of your book. Sometimes that works also. That's a bonus tip just for you. Right, Shakespeare? Oh, this is Shakespeare, by the way, if I didn't say. She's perfect. But also, like, if you're writing a book that has a magic system, you can write out the details of that a little bit more. You can work on your characters. Like, there's some great character prompts out there, but sometimes focusing on things that aren't the plot can make it easier. Next is, this is kind of a mindset thing because it sounds kind of obvious, but pivot the story. Let yourself walk away from your outline. Let yourself do something different. Sometimes the idea that you have for your story doesn't actually like work out when you're really trying to write it. So sometimes you just have to let go of what you originally thought the plot was going to be to take it in a direction that makes more sense as you actually write the story, because the person who made that outline does not have all the information that you, as you currently write the story, have. And if you don't let the story change and evolve as you go, you are going to get stuck. You're not going to finish your draft probably, because a lot of times everything they put in the outline doesn't make it into the final story. Like, I cannot tell you how many things from my outline I have ignored in draft 1, and I'm like, maybe they'll get added in a later draft. I don't know. But for what I wrote so far, it doesn't make sense. And you know what? Maybe that'll be a mistake, but that's part of the process. And the next thing is going to sound counterintuitive, but take a break from the project. I'm not saying, like, put it on indefinite hiatus, One Direction style. I'm saying more like, let yourself work on another project if you come up with another idea. Let yourself, like, maybe just take a break from writing altogether for a couple of weeks and just let yourself not focus on it, because I found that when I'm not focusing on a story, sometimes that's when I figure out what to fix it. Like the book that I'm working on right now, I actually started in January, and then I just got really stuck on a scene and I dropped it, didn't write for months because I had I had a sudden death in the family, and then I had a bunch of health issues. It was a whole thing. It's been a fucking year. 2020. Okay, Shakespeare, can you please put your butthole away? Thank you. You gonna lay down with me? You're just gonna leave your butt in screen? Okay. So I stopped working on the book in like January, February. I had a bunch of stuff going on. I just didn't have the physical energy to write. I had extremely low iron. I was exhausted all the time. But then when I felt like writing again, I actually started working on a different project, and as I started working on that project, just one day I was like working on stuff for that, and then it clicked of like, oh, my story wasn't working because I needed to change the setting and I needed to change the setup a little bit of like these two characters meeting, and now it all makes sense. And then as soon as I made that change, now I'm all in. I have written probably 20,000 words since I had that realization like a month ago. And yeah, it's great. My final note that I'm leaving you on is you have probably never seen the first draft of a book by any of your favorite authors unless it's posthumously released or something. Odds are you're never going to see the first draft of a book that you love. And you might not even recognize the first draft if you see it. You know, you think about Hamlet, as I am obviously a huge Hamlet stan. There's 2 versions of it, and one of them is probably like an earlier draft maybe, or it's a bootleg. We don't really know. But even Hamlet had a shitty first draft, and it's Hamlet. So let yourself be a little bit bad at stuff. It's kind of fun. It's kind of cute. And stop overthinking your first draft. Just let whatever comes out of your brain come out of your brain, and you can fix it later, and you can get feedback from other people, and you can work with editors and beta readers and edit to your heart's content. But the only thing your first draft needs to do is exist, and I stand by that. Yeah, that's gonna be everything. I hope that you like this setup I am trying out. This is my living room. I wanted to do something a little spooky for Halloween. Also, since we're at the end of the video, if you're still watching, thank you. Thank you for watching. If you live in the Rochester, New York area, I'm doing a book signing on Saturday, October 25th at 1 p.m. at the Pittsford Barnes & Noble. I will be there selling copies of my book, signing them, chit-chatting with people. So if you want to stop by, that would be great. Either way, I hope you have a great day and happy writing. Bye!